I'm just doing scene 2 on this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Scene 2, take 1.
So Maureen, how old were you when you learned these pieces, and why did your mother want you to learn them?
My mother was an elocution teacher. She had a class, and she taught the readings too, like I just did. She had several people she taught, young people, teenagers, mostly. She herself was a wonderful public speaker.
And how old were you? Do you remember? How old were you?
Oh my goodness, I was speaking when as soon as I could talk. She had me standing up in front of any crowd, any guests we had at our house. And my father would say, "Sister, speak a piece." And sister would speak a piece.
Wow. So how many pieces did you learn?
How many pieces?
Yeah.
Oh, when I was very little, probably 7 or 8, it would be all. And as I grew older, I increased my repertoire.
Good. So tell me about your favorite piece. Which one was that?
I don't know that I had a favorite. Funny ones made the crowd happy, and I liked to do something kind of funny if I had one.
Oh, good, good. So what do you remember about anyone that you performed for that really enjoyed your piece? Did you have a favorite audience member?
No. We lived next door to the Methodist church, and my parents were both very sociable people. Mother was in the PEO and the DAR, and Daddy was in all the Masonic organizations, and so we just always had a lot of people around us.
Oh, good, good. So what's your earliest memory as a child? What do you remember?
My oldest memory?
Your earliest memory as a little child. What do you remember?
I just don't know. I can't remember what I remember.
Yeah, that happens to me. Yes, yes, as well. So, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a few.
Yeah.
What did your mother do before she was married?
What'd she say?
What did your mother do before she was married?
My mother was a school teacher. She was county superintendent of schools. She was gorgeous. She was just beautiful. And she didn't want to give up that job. She loved what she was doing. She dated my father for 12 years before she finally gave in, and when they were in their early 30s. And she said, "Oh, okay, if we're going to have any children, I can't wait any longer." So she married when she was 32.
All right. How many children did she have?
She had, I had 2 younger brothers.
How did she get this county superintendent of schools job?
I'm sorry, I can't.
How did she get the job of county superintendent of schools? Was she appointed by somebody?
How did she get the job?
Yeah.
Oh, she was elected by public election. That's the way they elected their county superintendents.
Right. And could women vote yet? Could women vote yet?
No. And she brought that up in every speech she made, if she could. She would say, her name was Miss Pratt, P-R-A-T-T. She would say, although Miss Pratt is not allowed to vote, she would appreciate your vote in the upcoming election for County Superintendent of Schools of Blaine County, Oklahoma. She never lost an election.
Okay. Now, what about your father? What did he do when he was young? He had one thing that was very interesting when he was a child.
My father was a very good-looking man as an adult. He was born into a little farm family, and he didn't have much chance to do anything when he was little that I remember of.
The Oklahoma Land Rush?
Pardon?
The Oklahoma Land Rush?
Oh, yes. He went with my grandfather to the land rush when Oklahoma was opened. Do you all remember how that went? And my grandfather left my little daddy, who was only about, how old? 7 years old. Left him out there in the middle of nowhere with not even a tent. And he was to stay there until Daddy got back, until Grandpa got back. And he did. He had to stay there to hold the claim. And they had claim jumpers. People would come and slip around and take your whatever you had written down away and put their own down. So that's what he did.
Yeah. And then when he was a grown man, what did he do for a living?
What did who do for a living?
Your father.
Oh, Daddy had a bookstore. It didn't make much money, and it was during the Depression. The only time we had any extra money was during early September when school started, and Daddy did manage to get the school books paid for in his little store. So the parents and children would be lined for a whole block up the street and Guthrie, Oklahoma. And then he'd take them as they came.
And then how far was your house from the Methodist church?
Our house was right next door, which made it very, very easy to spend our life in the church, which we did. We were there for everything that happened.
Okay, and then I don't know how to ask this one. Did he do anything else for a living? Did he bring in money in any other ways?
I'm sorry.
Did your father do anything else for a living? Did he bring in money in some other ways?
Not. He sold tags. What you have to do to put a tag on your car.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what you call him, but he did that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was easy to set up the little spot in the store because it was a nice little bookstore and people could stand out in a line and he could take them one at a time.
Okay. I was thinking of the Justice of the Peace and doing Justice of the Peace.
He became Justice of the Peace much later when I was, I was probably about ready to graduate from high school before he became Justice of the Peace.
Okay. And what could he do as the Justice of the Peace? What were his jobs, or what were any jobs?
You know, I don't think I know what he did.
I was thinking of the wedding.
One thing, he sold tags to put on your car.
Mm-hmm.
He
could do a wedding, couldn't he?
Pardon?
He could officiate at a wedding.
A wedding?
Oh,
I need to get close.
well, he must have. I can't remember. He couldn't marry people, could he?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, he could too. Yes, he could marry people as Justice of the Peace.
He married somebody the day he died.
And he would invite them into our house, and Mother made a big deal out of it. If there was a poor little couple who didn't have much money, it was obvious. She always gave them a lunch.
And then one other thing they did between them, your house was very large, wasn't it?
I'm sorry.
Your house was very large, right?
We had a huge house.
So during the Depression,
It was in Guthrie, Oklahoma, and Guthrie had been the capital before. Well, it was the first capital, so a lot of people came for that reason.
okay. Let's see. And so this large house, what happened during the Depression?
During the Depression, Daddy made the rooms, the extra rooms, upstairs, and there was an apartment on the floor that we lived on, and another sleeping room. And we rented rooms during the Depression. We had a lot of, it got us through. Nobody was going to spend money on books in the little tiny bookstore when they needed it to eat.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that's all I have.
So tell me again, when's your birthday? Tell me again, when is your birthday?
January 31st, 1919.
Wow.
Yeah,
We just want to make sure we got that
I'm
on
kind
tape.
of elderly.
So do you have any words of wisdom for the young people? Have you learned anything in
I
100
think
years?
they have to find their own way. Everybody does.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, great. Well,
She had a question. Can I ask it for you? You want to?
Well, actually, another question about yourself, not just their parents. So growing up, when you first got out of the house, what was your first job?
Well, when I went to school, to college, in Stillwater, Oklahoma State University, Daddy took me over and we got me enrolled, and then he said, now she's going to have a job. And I said, what can she do? He said, well, she's a good clerk. I had worked in the dime store and I had helped out in the bookstore a lot. So I could get there without being run over. That was the first, six years, I guess, of my life. And then junior high, beginning in 7th grade, was a different story. It was much further away. Daddy took me to school then. It was too far to walk.
What kind of music did you listen to when you were young?
What was that?
What kind of music did you listen to when you were young, teenager?
My father had grown up out in the country in a very poor family, but he would have been a wonderful musician if he had had a chance. He learned to chord on the piano. We had a piano, and he directed some little chorus at church, and Daddy would have been a good one.
Okay, we've had some questions from the crowd here. One person wants to know if you remember the Dust Bowl.
The what?
In Oklahoma, the Dust Bowl. Were you there during the
Oh my
Dust
goodness,
Bowl?
yes.
Okay. What was that like?
We lived in this huge house next door to the Methodist church. We had to be close to the Methodist church because we never missed anything that went on there. But if you didn't keep all the windows down, the whole house was covered with dust. And you couldn't keep the windows down on a hot summer day, so it was just a problem. It was just an unpleasant problem. And we all lived with it. Everybody was in the same boat.
Okay. Do you, Did you always have electricity in your house?
You know, I think we did. When I was very young, I mean, like before 5 years old, there may have been a time when we had, didn't have it. I don't remember during my lifetime.
So you had lights. Did you have a refrigerator or an ice box?
We had an ice box at first, and we would buy our ice, 25 pounds, and the iceman he had the big things that you put on it, clamps that would hold it. He'd bring it in, put it in the refrigerator, and that would keep us until the next time he arrived. Probably a lot more of you have some of that in your family.
Somebody else? What? Flushing toilet. Oh, yeah. Did you always have a flushing toilet?
Yes, we always had a flushing toilet.
Wow. But not everybody used, well, let's see, how can I say that?
Not everybody did, no.
Yeah,
But we managed somehow to always have one.
yeah. You've told me too that your job with the rooming house was to empty the pots, the chamber pots. So, did those
Did
people...
I say something about a chamber part?
You used to tell me that your job in the boarding house was to, in the rooming house was
to empty them? Mhm.
Yeah.
Most of the roomers lived upstairs. It was a huge house, and the roomers all lived upstairs except for one family that lived downstairs in a little area. But
Was there no bathroom up there?
Hmm?
Was there a flushing toilet upstairs?
yes,
Well, then why did they have chamber pots? What?
Question about those pieces that she gave, they're pretty serious for a young person. Did she pick them or did
This is just all she remembers now.
they're pretty serious topics?
I don't think the
Okay.
flushing toilet was there
Another
when
one.
we moved in.
What? Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead.
I don't think the flushing toilet was there when we moved in, but Daddy had it put in.
Okay. Now I remember that you started school a year younger than most people, and then you skipped a year, and so you graduated from high school and went to college at 16. Okay, and then you graduated in 4 years as usual. And then what did you do?
He got married.
Right away?
I
When
don't
you
think
first
it, no,
graduated?
no, it wasn't immediate because the boy I married couldn't afford a wife at that time. This was during the Depression, you know. But he was a handsome fella.
And so what did you do while you were waiting to get married?
Oh, I worked in Daddy's bookstore.
In Daddy's bookstore? I thought it was the college bookstore.
I worked in the college bookstore when I was in Stillwater.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went home, I worked in Daddy's store.
Okay. And
I had a good background for clerking. I also had worked in the dime store in our town. And you have to follow certain rules in the dime store. I was scared to death. I was only, 16 when I worked in the dime store. And so they sat me down and told me what you do, and I did it. And I stayed there for a couple of years, I guess.
Yeah, okay. And then when you got married, what else happened on that same day? Do you remember?
Remind me.
Okay. Gas rationing and gas rationing for the war and graduation and the bookstore. Does any of that ring a bell?
Oh, yes. I graduated from high school on the same day that school.
No. Dad graduated from college on the same day you guys got married.
Well, I don't know. These two stories get mixed up. And I'm kind of elderly, you know.
Well, the way you've always told it to me was that you were working at the college bookstore on graduation day, checking in caps and gowns, and then because of gas rationing, you guys got married on the same day. So,
The man I married was the handsomest fellow I have ever seen in my life. And he was a wonderful dancer. He had a beautiful baritone voice. He could have held a job anywhere with that voice. He was just great, and we were together 60 years.
67.
Uh-huh.
Did you ever ride in a Model T?
Did I ever ride
In a Model T car?
One of my friends had a Model T, but it was just a fun thing. It wasn't anything that everybody did. They just picked one up for a song, I guess.
And what did this handsome fellow that you married, what did he do to put himself through school?
Oh, his parents had more money than mine. I don't think he did anything much, except he did have a talent for photography. And he took pictures of people and sold them for 25 cents a piece or something. He would develop them at home, and that's the way he made extra money.
And then what did he study? What did he study in school?
He was a structural engineer. Our college had a marvelous engineering department, all kinds of engineering, and Dutton was a structural engineer.
And what was the biggest, best building he designed in his lifetime?
Please help me with this. He designed the TWA Overhaul Facilities Base, and
Here in Kansas City.
in Kansas City, yes. It was huge and covered, I've forgotten how much area now, do you know?
Mm-mm.
But it was beautiful,
Yeah.
and he did it. And he had did I say he could sing? He could have been a professional soloist if he wanted to. He had this wonderful baritone voice with a lot of push to it. And any choir was mighty lucky to have him in it. And we always sang in the choir, no matter where we went. When he joined the Navy, I had to stay home for a while, but when he was sure he was going to be in one place for a long time, or for longer than just a little bit, he sent for me, and I went down to Florida, where he was based, and there we had a wonderful time for 2 years.
Okay. Yeah, I think.
Cut.
One more. What did you study in college?
What?
What did you study in college? What's your degree in?
Oh, my whole family had been school teachers. Even my father taught school. In the early days, people did that. You didn't have to have much background. If you could read and write, you could take care of it, and that's what they did. Mother was county superintendent of schools of Blaine County, Oklahoma. And you had to run for election, and she was a marvelous public speaker. So she would stand out in the park, the city park, up on the wooden stage, and she would say that she wanted to run for county superintendent of schools of Blaine County, Oklahoma. She never lost an election. She always had somebody running against her.
What did you graduate in? What was your
What did I
degree
graduate
in
in?
college?
Education. I'm a school teacher. I only did that because I didn't know anything else. And you had to graduate in something, so I said, okay, education. And I have a degree in education.
I have a question. You went to Grandma, I went to UMKC, and I think some other people here are familiar with some buildings at UMKC.
I can't hear Dodo.
I said I think a number of us are familiar with some buildings here at UMKC. One of them is Cockerfair Hall. Does that ring any bells to you?
What do you say?
Does it ring any bells to you, the building at UMKC, Cockerfair Hall?
Cockerfair Hall?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you ask that question?
Because I think you took a class from Mrs. Cockerfair.
Yeah, Mrs. Cockerfair was the lady who was in our dormitory. No?
Mrs. Cockerfair taught a class, a continuing education kind of class at UMKC. And
Oh,
you
yeah.
took it for 2 or 3 years,
Uh-huh.
maybe, with Mrs. Cockerfair. and then-
Carolyn Benton
There
Cockerfair.
you go. There you go.
Uh-huh.
So, all right, good fun. I think we're about through.
That's it.
I don't know.
All
Anybody
right.
else got another one?
Then that's a cut
Cut.
and a wrap, and thank you.